She-Hulk writer reveals if we'll see a Spider-Man in the series. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law is set to smash its way onto Disney Plus very soon, and will be filled to the brim with Marvel characters. But will a Spider-Man make an appearance? The likes of Daredevil, Abomination, Wong, and Bruce Banner all appear in supporting roles for the Disney Plus series as the Marvel Cinematic Universe expands and feels more connected. There have been many other characters rumored to pop up in the 30-minute comedy series, but will a certain webhead be among them? Writer and series creator Jessica Gao spoke to The Direct about the fun of throwing characters into the mix, and revealed a few characters couldn't be used due to rights issues. The other thing stopping characters from making potential cameos was Marvel often had plans for them, and didn't plan on introducing them in the series. There were a lot of characters from the comics. We wanted a lot of the comics for characters for fun situations where we could bring in like a character and think of like funny reasons why they would be in legal trouble. But there were a lot of characters that were from the comics that we couldn't use either because of a rights issue, or there were a few times where it was because Marvel, all they would say is that they had other plans. And that's all they would tell us. And then, we tried very, very hard to poke, and prod, and get a little bit more information. Of course, they wouldn't tell us. But as for Spider-Man, Gao said they were bummed out that they couldn't get to use the character for the series. Due likely to the confusing rights situation around Spider-Man between Marvel and Sony, as well as Tom Holland likely being too big a star to pop up for a cameo. But I will say, the one MCU character that really bummed out a lot of the writers in our room that we couldn't use was Spider-Man and anyone involved around, like in the Spider-Man universe. Because we had so many Spider-Man fans in the room. It's not a massive shock, all things considered. Spider-Man's just had a climactic trilogy-ending movie which saw a complete reset of his relationships, and She-Hulk is traditionally not super related to the webhead in the comics. Audiences will need a buffer between Spidey adventures to maintain the mystique. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law debuts on Disney Plus on August 18th. New Rosaline images show Kaitlyn Dever as Romeo's spurned love interest. Hulu's upcoming original film Rosaline received new photos that send us back to the time of Romeo and Juliet to meet Romeo's jilted lover Rosaline Capulet. The first image of Kaitlyn Dever as the oft-forgotten first romantic interest in William Shakespeare's iconic tragedy came back in November, but new photos give a greater look at her donning stunning period attire along with other members of the cast. The film debuts on the streamer on October 14th. 3 of the 4 new photos center on Rosaline, who seems to be scheming to ruin Romeo and Juliet's relationship to get her man back. In one shot, she's chatting up Dario, Sean Teal, who gets roped into the operation to get the two broken up. Teal is donning a soldier's uniform as the pair meet in the woods to seemingly discuss their plans in private. The other 2 images of Rosaline show her preparing for a party with a white mask and sitting at a table alongside Romeo, Kyle Allen, seemingly before Juliet comes in and sweeps him off his feet. The final photo offers the first look at Isabella Merced as the apple of Romeo's eye, Juliet. With a flowing white and gold dress with red sleeves, she looks the part of the Capulet princess. Rosaline puts Shakespeare's tragic tale of star-crossed lovers on its head by turning it into a rom-com. It centers on Rosaline, the cousin of Juliet whom Romeo first pines for until a chance encounter with Juliet during a Capulet party. In the original story, Romeo's love for Rosaline was unrequited, but here, she's heartbroken when Romeo meets Juliet. Spurned by Romeo, she tries everything in her power to thwart the famous romance before it can take off and win Romeo's love back. The film hails from Yes, God, Yes director Karen Main with Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber penning the screenplay. It's based on Rebecca Sorrell's novel When You Were Mine, which adapts the story with an even more modern twist, telling the story of the relationship between Rosaline and Rob, which comes crashing down after his old friend Juliet returns to town with her sights set on him. Main and company opted to adopt the original setting instead and lean more into the comedy rather than the teen drama of the book. Minnie Driver and Bradley Whitford also star in the film, which is produced by Sean Levy, Dan Cohen, and Dan Levine. Dever, Neustadter, and Weber also executive produce alongside Emily Morris. Rosaline streams on Hulu on October 14th. Pretty Little Liars reboot gets future update after cancellation fears. Pretty Little Liars, Original Sin fans will be relieved to learn that HBO Max hasn't swung the axe just yet. Earlier this week, a promo for the first season's next episode labeled it the series finale, suggesting that the reboot had already been canned. TV Line confirms this isn't the case, with the US streaming service still unsure whether or not to go forward with a sophomore season. It was merely an advertising blunder. The Riverdale boss shed light on why he melded the original Pretty Little Liars format with pure horror. When Lindsay, Calhoun Bring, my co-creator and I, when we started thinking about really getting in and doing a new version of Pretty Little Liars, which is such an iconic pop culture juggernaut, it ran for 6 or 7 seasons, 160-170 episodes. It was so iconic and so beloved, that when we started talking about doing this we thought, well, let's try to do our new set. Let's not try to recreate the original, let's not try to use the same characters. He elaborated, I think people love those characters and they love those actors, so the idea was starting kind of from a little bit of a clean slate. When we looked back at the original, it flirted with horror but its genre was really teen mystery/teen romance/teen drama, and we thought one way to really differentiate Pretty Little Liars, Original Sin, is to really embrace a completely new genre. Lindsay and I are both horror movie fanatics, and we had done Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and that's more supernatural horror/demonic horror. What neither of us had ever done was work on a slasher show. So we thought, let's embrace that genre. Let's hope it lasts longer than The Perfectionists. Joker 2 will have a budget almost 3 times bigger than the original. In true Hollywood fashion, the sequel to the incredibly successful 2019 Joker film, Joker, Folie à Deux, will go bigger and, hopefully, better. The sequel will see the return of Joaquin Phoenix's fantastic portrayal of Arthur Fleck, aka Joker, and also introduce Lady Gaga as the Joker's iconic paramour, Harley Quinn. Fans are already buzzing over the film's announcement, and it would seem that DC is really going to be giving it their all, with a budget 3 times bigger than the original. 2019's Joker, an interpretation of the famous unhinged clown's origin, cost a mere $55 million to make, which is chump change when it comes to superhero, DC or Marvel, offerings. However, the commercial success of the film saw over $1 billion at the box office, the first R-rated film to do so. If you compare this to DC's Justice League, one of the most expensive films ever made at $300 million, which only brought in just over $650 million, resulting in a loss for Warner Bros. Of around $60 million, it proves that money does not mean everything. Now Joker, Folie à Deux is getting a bigger budget thanks to its predecessor's commercial and critical success, with lead actor Phoenix getting a substantial pay rise. Phoenix was paid $4.5 million for his lead role in the first film, one that saw him win Best Actor at the 2020 Academy Awards. The upcoming sequel will see the actor receive almost 5 times his previous salary, $20 million, for his return to the role. Director Todd Phillips took a great risk on the first film, which he directed, produced, and co-wrote, foregoing his upfront salary, and instead negotiating a larger percentage of the box office earnings. It was a risk that paid off, and Phillips is reported to have made $147 million thanks to the film's success. Coming into the sequel, the director will this time receive a salary of $20 million, the same as Phoenix. Lady Gaga is also reported to be making $10 million for her role as Harley Quinn. The film overall is receiving a higher budget as well thanks to the music angle that will be added. The more complicated musical numbers, with an insider telling Variety that Joker 2 is more like A Star Is Born than In the Heights, push the budget to a little higher, though still reasonable, $150 million. Compared to most superhero movies, this larger budget is still on the tame side. With a budget 3 times larger than their original, fans will wonder what to expect from the upcoming sequel. With the first film such a huge success, it's hard to imagine just how the sequel will top it, but hopefully, in this case, bigger does mean better.